Hey everyone, welcome to Company Managed Jira Project Administration. Today we are going to be talking about some interesting things specifically around company managed projects. Now, last month we kicked off the series with team managed projects, and in this series, or in today's episode, we're going to evolve from that team managed project and we're going to start taking a look at what company managed project Jira administration looks like. Now, this is a long journey for the next 10 sessions, 11 including this one. We're going to dive deeper into what it means to be a Jira administrator of a company managed project. Because today we're going to cover some basics. You're going to learn a little bit about the ins and the outs. But the next 10 sessions after this are really going to dive a lot deeper into all this. So, again, welcome to Company Managed Jira Project Administration. This is part of our Getting Started with Jira Administration. And before we get too far, if we can do a quick mic check slash some friendly reminders here in the chat, if you can just let me know that you can hear me, just give me a hello, anything to just give me confirmation that you can actually hear me. That would be really good. And so we are going to start with that. Session is being recorded. So first of all, session is being recorded and will be available on YouTube after this. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you smash the subscribe button right now. Chad, thank you so much. Daval, Carrie, thank you so much for that confirmation. It always worries me. It always worries me to get too far into this training and not have a lot of audio or confirmation of the audio. Justin wants to know, how will this differ from JSM administration? So I would say if you were to make a Venn diagram of Jira software at Jira or just Jira administration and JSM administration, I would say there's like an 80% overlap. So a lot of what you're going to learn here, Justin, should cover and overlap. The things that we wouldn't cover are like request types, SLAs, approvals in the workflows, because those are JSM specific items. But I do have colleagues, I do have friends that are also doing community-led trainings that do a little bit more focus on the JSM side. So I highly recommend check out this link here. I'm going to drop it in the chat. We're a little out of order here, but it's okay. We're fine. We'll manage, right? But if you check out that link, Justin, that I just dropped, you should be able to see the JSM specific courses. But if you want one from me, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to make a JSM specific course for you all as well. I just try not to step on people's toes because we all kind of have like our little swim lane, and I just try to respect those swim lanes. But yeah, they should be able to help you out with the JSM. But everything we'll start covering in this series here for Jira administration, again, I would suspect about 80%, I think is a fair statement of the overlap between the two different worlds. All right. So again, slides are not available. They will be in Jira. Sorry, slides are not available, but we are going to be in Jira. So just watch the recording. If you need to come back, replay it a little bit slower, maybe slow down the speed, because I'm very excited about this Jira stuff, right? So I tend to talk a little bit faster than most. And so I'll try to remind myself to go a little bit slower. But if anything, just know that the replay is always available for you there. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Make sure you're hitting that bell notification. I have a total of 48 courses that I'm doing in 2025, all for free, all part of this community-led program. So make sure you're hitting that bell notification because we're just dropping these like almost every single Tuesday. So you don't want to miss out on any of these. And you also want to go back into the live section. So inside of Jira, if you're ever looking for these videos, you want to go over to my channel here on ApeTech Tech Tutorials. All right, and we'll type APTech, and then there's a live section. When you jump into this channel, there's a live section that you want to go into because these trainings, you won't find them under videos or shorts. They're going to be under live. So make sure you check out all the different trainings and videos that I have available hidden. They're not hidden, but they're a little harder to find sometimes. They're in that live section. All right. What else? So make sure you say hello in the chat here. I always love to see the engagement, and it's always awesome to see awesome faces here. So feel free to just drop a hello into the chat and just let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know literally anything, a little fun fact about yourself. Why don't we do that one in the chat here? If you want to just drop maybe drop your favorite admin story, right? What is your favorite, most proudest thing you've ever done as a Jira admin, or maybe something that you want to learn? Let me know in the chat here and take advantage of that. And let's just get that chat going on the side. While you're there, while you're on the chat, also make sure you ask any questions. I don't tend to lose my train of thought. So if you have any questions about anything, just feel free. I am going to be monitoring that chat and pausing over the course of the hour here. We'll have strategic pauses, and we will I'll address questions. So if you have any questions, do feel free to ask. And I try to have a dedicated Q&A session at the end, but we are usually just jam packed. And in the next slide, you're going to see how just exactly how jam packed we're going to be in this session. So we'll try to have that QA, but don't wait till it. Just ask your questions at any point. If you have anything, I'd be more than happy to stop here. All right. And then also we have an exclusive offer for you all at the end. So make sure you are sticking around. Now, before we get too far, obviously we have a little bit about me. So my name's Alex. I tried to make this super quick. I have the ACP 120, ACP 520, working on that 620, and I'm hoping to have it before Teams 25, but at this point, it's looking a little grim. We'll see. I got to scramble to try to see if I can get this still done by then. But I do run this channel, a Tech Tutorial. So again, if you haven't subscribed, right now is the best time for you. Just go down there, click that subscribe button. And I also am the co-host of the Jira Live. So I will drop some links here so you can check them out. You can scan that QR code if you have the ability to do that. If not, then we have a link tree here. Go check out the Jira Life. It's all the way at the bottom of my link tree. But it's a really cool podcast where we talk about the Atlassian ecosystem. So if you're new to the ecosystem, or even if you're a seasoned veteran, we have something to talk to you about. And this week, in 2 days, we're going to be talking with two very, very important in the Atlassian ecosystem. We have Peter, who's one of the founding fathers of Atlassian development, if you will. Like he worked at Atlassian and he created the community for developers so that there was a place for developers to gather and talk about the challenges and opportunities of making apps for the Atlassian ecosystem. And then there's going to be another guy who I'm blanking on the name right now, but Bob, if you remember the name, please let me know in the chat here. But he's like the first person that made like the first app or something like that. So very, very important people that we're going to have here, and I should probably get their names better. But tune in, make sure you go subscribe to that. All right. With that said, one last little disclaimer before we jump into what you're going to be learning today. And that is, you may have noticed on the top left corner, this video is sponsored by Unido. So I just wanted to let you know that if you are struggling, if you have two teams that are on two different platforms, maybe you got users in Asana, maybe you got users in Smartsheets, there's a tool, Unido, it's going to allow you to basically create a two-way sync, or however many syncs you want, right? You could do one way or two-way. And it basically just takes care of syncing these tools together for you so that you don't have to have that overhead. So as you can see here, I have hooked up Asana and Smartsheets. And basically anything that's in Smartsheets, it shows up in Jira. Anything inside of Jira shows up back in Smartsheets. You get to control who, what, when, where, how. And so this is a really powerful tool. So if you're looking, or if you're struggling, your teams are on two different platforms, check out Unido. It's definitely going to be a tool that is going to help you stop copying data, stop duplicating data, and it's just going to create a very easy and just intuitive method. So I can actually do these integrations in like 5 minutes. It's just so easy to set up. So definitely check Unido out. All right. So with that said, let's talk about what you're going to be learning today. We are going to be talking about company managed projects. Now, there's a lot to cover, and I'm going to touch on each of these today. And we're just going to go very surface level on every single one of these. But these are going to serve as a teaser. Dan Hardiker, thank you, Bob. Dan Hardiker is going to be the other person that we're going to be interviewing on Thursday. Okay, but we're going to go surface level on each of these because over the next 10 weeks, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we're going to go deeper into all of these, right? And so today I'm just going to kind of give you exposure and an understanding of like, this is all the stuff you got to worry about. And it's really to set up the why. Why do you have to worry about these things? And then we're going to go deeper into every single, well, not every single one of them, but the ones that are common, we're going to go deeper into them over the subsequent months. So that's it for this. We're going to jump into Jira, and we are going to kick things off with a company managed project. All right. So if you have any questions, again, feel free to drop them. We have Victoria Vlad here since every time I figure out how to do something on my own, proudest Jira admin moments, and lately I've been having those a lot. That's awesome. Okay. Chat says Microsoft Forms to Power Automate Flow to create new story. Awesome. Those are cool. And whenever you can automate stuff, that's always a really cool thing. All right. So we're jumping into company managed projects. This is very key, folks, because if you were here last month, you know we started off with these team managed projects. And as a Jira admin, there's not a whole lot of excitement in team managed projects because they're very easily configurable, right? Anybody, literally anybody can manage a team managed project because it's just so easy to do. But when we start talking about company managed projects, This is where the skills are required. This is where you need to know what you're doing, because very quickly and very easily, you can start breaking a lot of stuff in Jira. And so we're going to jump into a company managed project, and we're going to go over some of the details, some of the things that I am typically worrying as a Jira admin. Okay. And first of all, how do you know if you're in a team or company managed? Well, if you go to projects, view all projects, you should see a list of all your projects and there's a type. And so whenever you see company managed, that's what we're going to be focusing on. Whenever you see team managed, we're not talking about that anymore, because literally in 60 minutes last month, we were able to cover everything you need to know for team managed projects. They're that simple and they're not very helpful. I am a huge fan of company managed projects because I make a living off of company managed projects. So let's jump into a project here. We're going to jump into this Kanban project demo. And again, this is a company managed project. I can also confirm down here that this is company managed. And the reason I'm echoing this so much, right? Why am I double, triple, quadruple stating company managed? Is because really I want to create a very clear divide. If you are in a team managed project, a lot of what we're going to cover today and the rest of this series is going to not be very helpful. It's good to have the context, it's good to have the understanding, but in team managed projects, you don't have to worry about all the great things you can do as a Jira admin. But in company managed projects, you absolutely do need to worry about, because this is the big leagues. This is where Jira starts getting a lot trickier and a lot harder. And the devil's in the details. And you should know the ins and outs of how these projects work so that you don't make rookie mistakes. I do have a couple of fireable offenses that, if you're not careful in company managed projects, you can really mess things up. I'll give you teasers when we're in the right spot, but if you're not careful, you can really, really get yourself into trouble. Brian says, so if you haven't already said, what's the difference between company and team managed? When do you choose which to use? So great question. So let's talk about that briefly. So by default, when you create a new project, Brian, and then you're not careful, Atlassian is going to funnel you into a team managed project. And my opinions only, my opinions of this is because twofold. One, literally, it's so easy to create and manage that anybody, like anybody, my 8-year-old can go and create and manage these projects. It's so simple, right? And this, because it's so simple, because it's so easy to use, escalates the likability of Jira, right? Anybody with no technical background needed can jump into Jira and start being productive almost immediately within a few minutes. So these team managed projects, Atlassian likes to push, because as they're trying to gain market share, right? As they're trying to steal market share back from your Mondays, back from your ClickUps, right? Back from Asana, then you want low friction, right? You want anybody to just be able to get in and start being productive, feel productive in minutes, not weeks. Okay. Problem is, there's some limitations. These projects are great for little teams. They're great for 5-person teams, 10-person teams, right? But the moment you start scaling at enterprise, right? The moment you start scaling and you're running a business, right? The moment you have 100 people, 500 people, 10,000 people, 50,000 people in your organization, team managed projects quickly lose their merit, right? They're great starter projects. If I got any Pokemon fans out here, right? Your team managed projects are your great Squirtles, Charmanders, Bulbasaurs, right? These are the starter Pokemons. These are the ones you get started with, but they're no Charizard, they're no Venusaur, right? They're no Blastoise. Like these think of a company managed project like the final evolution of a Pokemon, right? Like they can do everything. But the team managed ones are the great starter ones. It's the ones you start off with at the very beginning, just to get your feet wet, just to get started. But company, that's where it's going to be at, right? This is where if you want to use the full power of Jira, you have to be in a company managed project. And if you're coming over from the data center world, if you maybe historically you had data center or you managed data center or you've used Jira in the data center environment, then company is the only thing you've ever known anyway. So welcome. This is the direct translation back. So hopefully, Brian, that's how or why or when to choose these team managed ones, and hopefully you understand the difference. Okay, so just think of Jira without training wheels at this point, right? Team managed projects is very much Jira with training wheels, and we're taking the training wheels off. We're going after the hard Pokemon here, and we're gonna be capturing some legendary stuff here. So This is why you pick company managed. Unfortunately, though, you really got to know what you're doing here, folks. Like this, you can't you can't fake your way through managing Jira at this company managed project level, because you will quickly reality will slap you fast and hard in the face and remind you that you're not that good as a Jira admin. But it's okay, because that's why you're in these classes, to get better, right? To learn a couple of skills. All right, so we got Deval says thanks thanks for the Pokemon, or great job on the Pokemon analogy. Victoria says listen to Alex. Company managed is the only way to go. Yeah, a lot of people will get started because Atlassian's actually kind of tricky, or like they're very what's the right word I'm looking for? Not tricky, but like they're very conniving, I guess is the only word I can think of, because even though it's a bad has a negative connotation, but they'll trick you into setting up a team managed project because it's just so easy to do it unless you catch it. And so you want to be careful sometimes. All right. So with that said, we are in a company managed project, and I just want to go over a couple of different things that you can manage as in this page, right? And some of the stuff that you should be aware of. So first off, couple of things you should know. There's like 5 levels of Jira administration, and I think this is probably a good time to think about it. There used to be 5 at least. I think Atlassian has since gotten rid of one, but I'll kind of outline them here so you can kind of understand what kind of admin do you need to be. Because when we looked at those team managed projects last month, it didn't matter. You were the project admin, and that's it. As the project admin, you can do everything you need to do. But now that we're in company managed, you need to understand that, but depending on your Jira, there's either 4 or 5 levels of Jira administration that you got to worry about. Okay. At the very, very top, highest level, you have something called the org admin. The org admin can do all the stuff we're going to be covering over the next 10 months. Okay. They have all the permissions to do absolutely everything and anything that needs to be done. But that also includes things like billing, buying new products, um, security, stuff like that. So it's a very, very powerful position, but that is the highest level of Jira administration. Below that, depending if you're on the old, what they call original, I still call it old, but if you're in the old version of admin.atlassian.com, you might have something called a site admin. And these site admins are play a pivotal role because they're very much like the org admin. They have very similar powers to the org admin, but they are just for a specific site. So think of your URL up here. This is the representation of your site. Now, an org can have multiple sites, so the org admin is going to be an admin for everything, but the site admin is going to just be basically all the power, but just for that specific site. Okay. So, and as we keep working our way down, we have something called an administrator. And the administrator is powerful because the administrator can do Jira and Confluence. We start losing billing. We start losing ability to add products, but we are a full admin of both Jira and Confluence if your company has it. And below that, we now then have the Jira administrator. And so as you can kind of guess it, the Jira administrator is just the administrator of Jira, not of Confluence. And so there's 2 separate groups that we can put people in if you just want to be one or the other. And then below all of that, we have something called the project admin. And when we talked about, again, all the administration from last month in a team managed project, you just need to be a project admin to do things. And if you're a project admin in a team managed project, that's all the thumbs up you need, because you're going to be able to do what you need to do there. But over on the company managed project admins have a very limited scope of power. There's a very few things that they can do. And I'm going to try to balance out and describe to you what you can or can't do. But most of the time, project admins, people that can see this page, right? So how do you know if you're a project admin? Well, it's really easy. Go to your project. If you can go to the bottom and you see project settings, you're a project admin. Okay. So if you can see this page and you can see that project settings button, you're a project level admin, but you are limited to what you can do here. Almost everything you're going to need to do, almost everything, I would say like 90% of stuff, you need to be at least, at a minimum, a Jira admin. So how do you know if you're a Jira admin? Well, that part's really easy. If you click over here on the gear on the right-hand side, you're going to see a lot of stuff, or you might not see a lot of stuff. If you only see these 2 things, you are no admin. You are not an admin at all. You might be a project admin, but you're not an admin with any real power. If you can see Jira settings, if you can see just this upper, like these 6 items, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you can see these extra 5 items here, you are at least a Jira admin. And this, my friends, is what you're going to need to do. So for the next 10 weeks and then 11, including this one, if you want to be productive and follow along, you have to be a Jira admin so that you can at least see these different things. Okay. Now, if you are a site or org admin, you're also then going to see these two items down here. Okay. And so if you can see everything that I see on my screen, then you are most likely you have all the keys that you need to be able to do everything that you need to be able to do, which is a lot of power and a lot of responsibility. So you got to be like Uncle Ben. All right. But yeah, so again, we will be spending a lot of time in this Jira setting. So if you don't have these permissions, or this view here, you may want to talk to your actual Jira admins and have them give you the right power. Because you need to, for a lot of what we're going to be doing, again, it's going to be focused right here in this section. Okay. Now, with that said, let me pause here real quick and see. I got some questions here. So Brian says, so team managed projects and company are just names for simple, basic, or yes, that is a great way of describing it. So thank you, Victoria, for that confirmation. Nicola says, I'm new to managing Jira. I know your company has team managed projects. Oh, I know our company has team managed projects. 20 suggestions to first steps to asserting this and creating a plan to switch would be great. So unfortunately, so finding out if your team managed, right, this is really easy. Just go to view all projects and you will see them right here. I don't know that you need to convert them, right? You can get away with team managed projects, but you're going to find a lot of frustrations with these team managed projects in the long haul as you try to scale your business. So how do you actually create? I think I have a video, convert to company managed project. Let me see if that shows up. I think I have a video. Yes, here we go. I do have a video from a year ago. And so if you want to take a look at this video here, we won't cover it in this video, but I do charge a lot of money. Whoa, I do charge a lot of money to fix these mistakes. So make sure you check out that link tree as well if you are stuck. But try to watch the video. If not, get a hold of me and I'll help you out. But it's not trivial. It does take some know-how to be able to convert from team to company. So check out that video. And then if you still need some help, let me know. Joseph says, will you be talking about different project template types? A good, so great question. Staying on this same topic here, if you go to my live stream, go check out this video from 6 days ago. I covered all the project templates. So I will grab a link here, Joseph, so that you can go see that video. But I do have a live training from last week that covers all those project templates. So let's see. I followed his tutorial, successfully converted. Perfect. So there is some merit to that video. Apparently somebody has followed it and it works. So there you go. All right. Let's we're so close to 23,000 folks. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, I need 100 more subscribers here to get us to 23,000. Go smash that subscribe button right now. It'd be so cool by the time we finish with this training. I'm at 23,000. I think that would be so cool. So there's 108 of you in here. Do me a solid and smash that subscribe button. Let's see if we can get to 23,000. That would be really cool. Okay. So back to Jira, back to my Jira project. I think I answered all the questions here. What will be the minimum level of admin to grant someone only to manage user accounts? So interesting question. So Atlassian recently, as of very, very recently, and this is really for newer teams. If you have a newer Jira, there is a new permission called manage users or something like that. That one will only allow you to basically add and remove users, manage the licenses. You will not be able to break Jira. You'll be able to inflate your bill and maybe make somebody else mad, but you will not be able to break Jira. So that is only available to the newer, if you're on the newer Jira. If you're on the original, that's not even an option. And so that doesn't apply to you. So check it out. Go to admin.atlassian.com. And if you have the ability, you will see another admin group for user management, and that should be that one. Right. Scott and Michael, thank you so much for subscribing. Let's see. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm feeling good. I'm thinking this is the one where we hit that 23,000 count. So thank you so much, both of you. And for everybody else that subscribed and didn't say thank you as well. So just again, there's 104 of you now. Smash the subscribe button. All right. So back to this, right? So details, right? So a lot of this was level setting, folks. I understand we're taking our sweet time here, right? But this is why I broke it up into 10 series, right? I want to take my time with these because I don't want to rush. There's a lot of information here. And if you don't get these basics down, it can go right over your head, right? And we don't want to do that. I want these videos to be very helpful. And so again, I'm slowing down just so that you really understand why things work in Jira, because not a lot of videos out there explain the behavior of Jira and why it happens. I'm hoping I know I'm going slow, but I'm hoping that this is beneficial to y'all so you understand the restrictions and the limitations and why you can't see this or why you can't see that. Okay. So again, to reiterate, to get to this screen, to get to what we're going to be working on today, you do need to be at a minimum a project admin. But unfortunately, your heart's going to be broken real quick because project admin in a company managed project is not going to let you do a whole lot of stuff. There's a couple things. Don't lose faith and hope. There's a couple of things, but it's like two things. For everything else, you will want to be a Jira admin so you can at a minimum see these items here. Okay. So now let's jump into it. Let's go into the deep end. We got like 30 minutes left, and we're going to go a little faster. All right. So in the detail section, if you're a Jira admin, so any of the Jira admins that I mentioned, site, org, admin, and Jira admin, you're going to be able to come in here. And if you are a project admin, you're going to be able to come in here. And in here, you can change the name, you can change the key. Atlassian recently introduced a new feature where if you change the key, Atlassian will remember. So if I rekey my project, Jira is going to remember my old keys. And so that's kind of cool. This is not showing in this particular UI, so not everybody might have that feature. But if you rekey your project, you will have like a list of all the older keys. And I wouldn't mess with them too much. Jira indexes your stuff, which means that if you go to the old key, Jira will still remember and redirect to the new key. So you want to be very, very careful, very, very cautious. But renaming and rekeying your projects come with some very, very bad consequences, specifically with respect to your filters. And so you want to be very mindful. If you ever rename a project or rekey a project, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. This has some pretty nasty consequences if you ever rename or rekey. The key, in my opinion, is worse. I think it's a bigger problem, but I try to avoid rekeying or renaming my projects. I'd rather just start with a new one because anybody who's referencing these, either the name or the key in a filter or in a dashboard, you basically just just terminated a lot of the functionality that they were relying on. So exercise extreme caution when renaming or rekeying your project. So again, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. And the project type is going to be just a template that you selected. So unfortunately, once you pick a project type, you're stuck with that. You're not going to be able to change. Categories is a very optional thing, but the categories basically allow you to um, bucketize your projects. So when you're looking at the full list of all your projects here, when you're looking at all the projects that your company may have, maybe you have 10, maybe you have 100, maybe you have 500, it can be a little annoying to see them all. And so over here, you see that there's a category, and you can actually just filter by category and see all the projects that belong to a specific category. So if your HR department has a bunch of projects, you can group them all to HR. Maybe you have business units, so you can group all the projects that belong to each specific business unit. So a lot of different ways. There's really no right way or wrong way to do this, but just know that you have your categories there to help you segregate or group your projects. Descriptions are totally optional. URLs are totally optional. Project lead, my opinion, this is a very, very important person. Make sure that if you're a Jira admin, make sure you put a valid project lead. This lead does not need to be an administrator in any way, shape, or form, but this lead to me is a very important person because whenever somebody asks me, hey, can you add a new issue type? Can you modify the workflow? Can you make any change, right? Any change, add a new user. I want to be able to delete something, right? Anytime that I get literally any request for a project, I go check with that lead and I go, do you approve? Do I have your thumbs up for this? Because if I get a no, then I don't do it, right? Because again, just because you're a Jira admin, just because you can do it all doesn't mean you should. And so I always double check with this project lead. So make sure that you're putting good leads in here so that you know you have a reference, right? Especially if you're managing a big organization and you have 250 projects, your changes as a Jira admin sometimes are global. Sometimes they can really hurt a lot of people, not physically, but in Jira, right? They can hurt. They can really create an unfavorable experience in Jira is what I'll call it, right? And so you want to double check with your project leads because sometimes somebody's going to say, "Hey, I just want a new status. Just add me a new status." And you're like, "Uh-uh, not unless the project leads approve," right? It's more of a little CYA for yourself. Make sure you always have your project leads up to date. And then the final thing on here is your default assignee. If you want to pull and yank the hair out of your head, set it to the project lead. Okay. If you don't, if you want to keep, your sanity and not lose your mind, I would leave it unassigned because when you set it to the project lead, if that lead leaves your company, then the ability to create issues basically comes to a halt in that project. And you don't want to do that. And it's not transparent. Jira's not going to say, "Oh, it's because your project lead left." You're going to spend some time investigating why all of a sudden nobody can create tickets in Jira. And that's because your project lead is no longer a licensed user and they can thus no longer be the assignee of an issue. And so therefore, the moment you create a ticket or an issue, Jira can't assign it to that person because they don't exist anymore. So avoid that whole mess. I leave this 99.999% of the time. I am leaving this as unassigned. All right. So we got A here saying good call. Rekeying will impact anything impacted by filters such as dashboards, boards. Yeah. So again, you can rekey, but just be very, very mindful that you have the potential to really screw things up. Okay. So next up, we have something called the summary. So I like this view because when you're looking at company managed projects, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of configurations. There's a lot of different settings that we can do. There's a lot of settings we can share, right? That's one of the reasons, one of the benefits of having company managed projects is that we can actually share settings between projects. And so this summary view is a great place to come and just get a bird's eye view of all the different settings that we're going to be talking about in the next 20 minutes and then over the next 10 weeks, right? And so I like it. I like this here. You don't really do a whole lot in here. This is just kind of a read only place where you come to see. You can click add version and stuff like that, but it'll most likely redirect you to the right place. But this is a great place so you can see at a glance the name of your issue type scheme, the name of your priority scheme, the name of your workflow scheme, the name of your screen scheme, the name of your field screen, right? So it gives you a lot of situational awareness so that you can see what's going on in your project. And then we're literally going to talk about every single one of these things either today or over the next 10 weeks and show you how to tweak all these, right? But this gives you a good understanding, right? Because especially if you're a new Jira admin, when you're getting started, the schemes, right? You got your issue type screen scheme, your priority scheme, your workflow schemes, you got your screen schemes, you got a lot of project permission scheme, right? There's a lot of schemes in here and it can become overwhelming to keep it all straight. And so here you can go, okay, for this project, what are we dealing with, right? What are we looking at? Who, what, when, where, why? You get it here. Okay. So that's this summary page. If you haven't gone to it for your Jira project, go to it. It's very critical. Take a look. It's going to give you a lot of information that's going to be helpful. Okay, down below we have people. This is where we're going to add people. So if you're a project admin, so far you should be able to see the details of summary and project admins. Really, this is the permission you want to give. You want to toss this. If you're a Jira admin, you want to give ownership to your project admins to manage this next part. So this is where we go to add people. Now, adding people to Jira is a very complex topic. It's so complex, we're actually going to do a dedicated section on this. But in a nutshell, whenever you want to provide access to a user, there's two ways to do it. You either go to the permissions, which we're going to talk about next, but now we're talking about it. And you want to make sure that whatever user you're trying to make sure can see that project, you want to make sure that they have the permission of browse projects. And as you can see, by default, this is open. This is any logged in user can see the project. Okay. So you want to be very mindful there that by default, your Jira projects are literally open to everyone. Sometimes people close them up, right? Sometimes a Jira admin will go, nope, no, we don't want these projects to be open to everybody. So you close them up. And when you close them up, you're going to modify. Again, we're going to have a dedicated section talking about just this. So again, make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure you're signing up for these community-led courses. But we're going to have a section where we just talk about all of this. But what you need to know for this is that this browse project controls who can or cannot see your project. And so what you have here is very, very important. And so if somebody is having trouble accessing your project, that means that you put some sort of a restriction here. Now, the common things that you do is you either A, explicitly add a user here, not recommended. B, you put a group in here. I like that. Or C, you make this role based. And if you do role based, which is the best way to do it, then you got to use the people section. Because when you go to the people section, you're going to be able to find a user. I'm going to put Bob. I think I have Bob in here. Okay. I'm going to add a user, and then I'm going to pick that role that I want them to be. So I'm going to just pick administrator. And now when I do that, Bob can now see my project. All right. Well, I'm going to, hopefully Bob doesn't get that email, but Bob will not be able to see that. Bob's name will show up here, and Bob will be able to see this project. And that is because the permissions said that a role of administrator is needed. Now, again, when you first use a Jira project, it's open to everyone. So this whole thing might be a moot point, but I just want to let you know that if somebody did go and modify this, then most likely it's going to be an explicit user or a group or a role. And if it's a role, you have to go to people, and then you have to physically add people to that project in here. Now let's talk about some pros and cons of the user, the group, and the role, because there's a lot to talk about here. So I would avoid users altogether, because as a user changes teams, as you onboard new users, you're constantly having to modify the permission scheme. Second, these permission schemes are default permission schemes, and they're shared. So if you're not careful, if you're not being a diligent and smart Jira admin, you're going to be adding a lot of people to a lot of different projects. And so it's not a good idea to add users here. Again, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. Don't add users here explicitly. Maybe like a director, maybe like a VP or CTO that you know has to have access to everything. Yes, do it because it makes sense. They're the CTO, they should be able to see everything. Put their name. The chances that your CTO would change, far and few. And even if when they do, you're just going to want to swap their names out anyways. Then in that case, it's okay. But for everybody else, for all normal users, avoid putting normal users in here. Next, we have groups. Groups are cool, right? Groups are a great way. It is not a bad option. It's my second favorite option, but it's a great option nonetheless. And the reason why I don't like groups is because only, I repeat this, only the Jira admins that are site or org, only those two are going to be able to add users to a group. And so to be able to manage the groups is something that is done outside of Jira. It's done in the admin.atlassian.com. So if you don't have the right power, you're not going to be able to add users. Second, groups are only visible to your site and org admins. So a regular person is not going to even know the group names. So they're not going to know to which group they need to be added to, right? So this just makes it a little bit harder. And I'm a huge fan of the role, because all you need to do as a Jira admin is make sure that your new users have a license, which you can provision if you're using Guard, or you can just have some policy or automation that kind of gives licenses out, right? And as long as the user has a license, that's good. Your job is done. And then your project admin can go into the people section and add the users that they need to add, right? And so it makes the administrative parts of adding and removing users, you put the onus on the project admins. And all you need to worry about is just making sure they have a license to begin with. And that's it. And that's all you have to worry about. Because otherwise, you spend, I guarantee you, I manage a lot of different Jiras, and 50, 60% of the day-to-day tickets that I get are, I need to add a user, I need to remove a user. And you do not want this to become your job as an admin, because it is a sucky job. You don't want to be doing that. All right, Victoria says, I have a project I'm trying to restrict user access to and have not been able to figure out how to do it because of the default user role. Yeah, so play around with your permissions, Victoria. There's a lot of different options in here. Again, don't mess with this one because this is global. Every time that you create a brand new company-managed Jira software project, it will inherit the default software scheme. Every time you make a Jira company-managed business project, it will inherit the default scheme. I think it's just called default scheme. So you want to be very mindful that you're doing this on a different permission scheme and then doing your changes. But there's a lot of different options, Victoria. And if you need help, again, get a hold of me and we'll chat. But you should You have options. Yeah, and so again, the groups is cool, but just know that the end users are blinded to the group, so it doesn't do the end user any good. All right, as we move down our list here, we got notifications. So notifications is kind of cool, right? So notifications controls who gets notified when things happen. And so these are all the different triggers that are available. And I do believe you can make a couple of modifications on your own as well, especially when it comes to the generic one that you can then incorporate in your workflow. So if you've ever studied for the ACP 120, then you know they spend a lot of time on notifications. But notifications is important for you to understand as a Jira admin, because there's a notification scheme that we're going to talk about later that essentially controls what emails go out. Just know for right now that whenever you create a brand new project, like the permissions, automatically going to inherit a default notification scheme that is shared with all the projects. In this particular case, I have 20 projects. All my 20 projects have the same notification scheme. That this is a very common behavior. So if you ever want to make an altercation, right? If you ever want to alteration, one is when you cut something, right? I'm not using that word correctly. But if you ever want to alter your permissions or your notifications here, um, make sure you're not doing it on the default one. Otherwise, you're going to impact every single project, and that might not be what you want. So, again, come back when we talk about notification schemes. But as a spoiler, make a new notification scheme and then make the changes, because otherwise everybody's going to be impacted. But why make changes here, right? So typically, so these are the defaults. I haven't made any changes here. But typically what happens here is you have emails that are sent out, and there's a lot of emails, and Jira can get very, very noisy, to say the least. And people don't normally like getting 20, 50, 100 emails from Jira all day long. And so sometimes when somebody gets fed up with 1,000 emails from Jira in a week, they'll be like, okay, we got to change something. We got to prevent all these emails from going out. And so this is where you kind of go and control some of that. And so by default, if you interact with the ticket, you become a watcher. So if you add a comment or you edit something, alteration is changed. There we go. Thank you. I knew they were very close, Brian. Thank you. So not an altercation, although you might be in an altercation with your Jira admin if you they don't do this correctly. But anyways, when you comment on a ticket, or when you or you become the assignee, or you're the person that created it, right? You're what's called a watcher, or you're the assignee, or you're the reporter, and you're going to get notified, right? And so if you're just commenting, if you're just like editing the description, you become a watcher. You can easily unbecome a watcher. But if you're the assignee or the reporter, Jira assumes that you care, that you want to know everything. And boy, is it gossipy. I think this Jira notifications give gossip girls a run for their money, because everything that's happening in Jira, you get notified. And so this is where, again, if you get mad or you're upset because you're getting too many emails, this is where you're going to want to come make a change. So again, just make sure that you don't mess it up for everybody. Not everybody might be mad. Some people do like the gossip. Okay, automation rules. Again, let me go to this one here real quick. So for permissions and notifications, the last two things we talked about, only Jira admins can make changes. So if you're a project admin, you can see it, but you can't do any changes. You will need to talk to your Jira admin to actually make a change. On the automation front, um, anybody can create an automation rule unless your Jira admin changed it. When Atlassian switched over to usage-based billing, they made it so that when you have in your global administration, right? So this is at the global level. For global administration, only the Jira admins can see it. This means that you can make an automation rule that runs on a lot of projects. Okay, but in here, your Jira admin has the ability to configure this so that project admins can't manage the rules. And so, depending on if you've abused your power, you might not have the right power here. Or if you're a Jira admin, you find somebody that's abusing, right? Somebody that's creating a lot of automation rules and they're basically using up all your usage. You get a monthly usage now. Spoilers, in case you didn't know. So if somebody's abusing these automation rules, then you can actually stop it, and that's how you would do it at the global level. But at the project level, anybody can create automation rules, and you'll be able to see the automation rules that are available for this project specifically. So only Jira admins will be able to see the global one, but any project admin will be able to create automation rules and be able to see all the existing rules. They'll be able to see some of their usage and see their log and stuff like that. So cool little place. I don't know that I have a training on automation rules, but I do have videos. I have regular YouTube videos on automation rules. So check those out if you're interested. Features. This is an interesting place. So when you're in the Jira project over here on the left-hand side, you got a lot going on. There's your summary, your forms, your goals, your issues, components, releases, code. There's a lot. So sometimes that can be overwhelming, or sometimes things are missing. And so I'd come in here because you can actually turn things on and off. Some of them, not all of them, but you can turn off like your summary so you don't have that summary view. You can turn off the calendar. You can turn off the list, forms, goals. So if you don't want your team to see this, or alternatively, if somebody in the past turned them off and your team's like, hey, we want to be able to use goals, but they're turned off, like we don't see them, but we see them in another project, this is probably turned off. So you might want to hit that slider and turn them back on. So a lot of these again can be changed. If you're doing CI/CD, if you're not a coding project, turn off your code. But if you do depend on code, turn them all on, right? And so you have some varieties here. You have some options for what you are allowed to do here. And so I recommend you check out your features. But the biggest use case that I see here again is somebody's like, hey, we don't see the list. And somebody else was screen sharing and they could see the list, not in their project, but in a different project. And I'm like, I want that list view. And this is where you come to turn those things on and off. All right. Before we get into Toolchain, let me just check the chat here. Rodney Estrada says, fun fact, users can disable notifications. Yes. So that is a very fun fact. So at the user level, so each specific user, they have the ability to click on their little gear up here, and they can go to notifications, and they can turn things on and off themselves. 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, tell the user, go figure it out yourself and go over here and figure it out here. You set it up. Because doing that, when we're looking at notifications at the project level, that is drastic. That impacts a lot of people. So if only one person's complaining, tell them to come and turn this off. But if you have a whole team complaining, going like too many emails, then you want to go to your notifications. Okay, so hopefully that clears up some stuff. So we're down to like the last 15 minutes. So we're putting this into overgear here because we got quite a few things. Toolchain. If you are planning to use Jira end to end from the beginning of an idea all the way into final delivery, right? And you want to use Jira for all of this, then this is something you want to look at. This Toolchain is going to allow you to connect to a variety of different tools. And if you take a look at Linktree, just a little shameless plug, I have a book that I co-wrote with a couple of people here in the chat. Where is my book? Oh boy, here we go. We have an Atlassian DevOps toolchain cookbook. And the word toolchain should come to mind, right? So if you're looking at your toolchain, you're going like, ooh, what do we do here in your tools chain section? Go check out my book. There's a lightning deal right now. Ooh, maybe I should buy it. Get a couple copies I can give away at Team 25. But yeah, so this right here is basically we'll walk you through how to set all this stuff up correctly. So a little shameless plug if you're interested in taking advantage of all of it, the tool chain with the source code, with the pipelines, the CI/CD, security, all of that, feature flags, it's all in here, and you can definitely follow our book, and we'll teach you how to set it all up. Okay, workflows. Little shameless plug, Bob. I don't know if you're still listening, but little hat tip to you. All right. On the workflows, your Jira admins are going to be the only people. When I'm as a Jira admin, if I'm not adding users to Jira, I'm making some sort of workflow change. And so this is one of like 4 things that I'm doing all the time. I'm either adding users, I'm either modifying workflows, or I'm doing something with my fields. Okay, so those are usually the 3 things. And then the 4th one is I'm just troubleshooting hard problems. But the workflows, you do need to be a Jira admin or up to be able to modify these, which is a very big difference from those team managed projects. In team managed projects, any project admin can modify these things, right? So a little bit of a difference there, but just know that your project admins will be able to see the workflow. They'll be able to click on this diagram and see the workflow, but only your Jira admins will be able to have the ability to edit. Now, that is changing As far as I'm aware, Atlassian is changing this here ability to edit workflows. So some of you might have this new permission where you can now grant more privilege to more people. But the regular theme that we have of this training is just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. Okay. Your workflows in team managed projects are contained to that team managed project. It's a very small little box. And so if you're Jira or if you're person, right, if that individual who now can modify workflows does a mistake, that little explosion of a mistake is self-contained to that itty bitty little tiny box of that team managed project. I cannot say the same thing for these here. If you are foolish enough to open this up to more people, then you will have some serious consequences because changes here are global. For example, if somebody were to come in here and click on this status and go, "Ooh, I don't want it to say backlog. I want it to say new." They can click here, new status, rename it, and hit save. And they just broke Jira for a lot of people because this new status that just got renamed is not specific. Even though Jira is like yelling at you that this is just a change in this project because it's shared by one project, that is the biggest lie ever in the world of Jira. This right here is a global change. You just rename that status for anybody and everybody that was using that backlog status. So every filter, integrations with third-party tools, automation rules, dashboards, literally anything and everything, boards, columns, it's the whole thing. Anything and everything that was referencing that old status has just come to a crippling halt. So be very, very careful. Very, very careful who you are entrusting with this ability to modify workflows because unlike those team managed projects where again everything is in that explosion of self-contained, this explosion here is going to have some very unintended consequences. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. Holy moly, that needs to go on a shirt. There's some caveats on the edit workflow permissions. Project admins can only edit workflows that aren't shared with other projects. Okay, so good to know, but still, renaming this, renaming that status, shared or not shared, you're changing it on everybody. So even you as a Jira admin, right? Even if you don't grant a non-Jira admin permission to do this, but even you as a trained Jira admin, you have been warned. Never, ever, ever rename a status here. Unless you can 100% guarantee that nobody else is using that status. You just created it. I know, I just fired myself, Bob. um, unless you know, right? Like literally seconds ago, you created the new status and you're like, you know what? Never mind. Let's change it to something else. Then you can rename it. There's very, very few scenarios where you should rename. Always add and create a new status and swap the statuses out. Because if you rename it, I'm gonna fire you. If you were on my team, you get fired. And you'd be surprised because a lot of people do this, right? This is a bigger problem when you have a lot of admins. When you have a lot of Jira admins, if your company has like more than 5 Jira admins, this becomes exponentially worse. And so you want to be very, very careful here because people will just say, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." And of course, you didn't know because you're not trained. But these changes, folks, trust me when I tell you, they have some very, very nasty consequences. So be very, very careful who you entrust this permission with. Okay, and then very quickly under issues, because we literally only have like 2 minutes here. I want to switch over to the end of the slides here. Under issues, you have a lot of different things. We're going to go over types, layouts, screens, fields, not collectors. Nobody cares about collectors. We'll talk about security. We're gonna have dedicated courses for each one, right? And so, in fact, let me switch over here to this. As you can see, I'll give you a teaser. So we are gonna go deep into like board settings, issue types, the workflows, screens, custom fields, field configuration. So all these things here, we're gonna spend an hour on each one individually. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're coming back to this. Hit those bell notifications. Make sure you're going to community. Let me drop a couple of links here for you. Right. Make sure you're going to this Bevy area where Atlassian allows you to sign up. Sign up for the rest of the classes. I have all of these that are not striked out. Those are all the ones that I have left in the year. Whoa, my connection is not working. Why not? All right. So make sure you go and All right, are we back? Can you guys hear me okay? Can I get a quick mic check to see if we still have, because I think I lost internet there for a second. Can we get a quick mic check? Okay, cool. Awesome. We're back. So let's just finish things up here. So sorry about that. I'm not sure. My internet there crapped out for a second, but I'm going to drop again the links here just so you have them for signing up for the rest of these courses. So make sure you go and sign up for the rest. Hopefully, I have better internet connection then. And then also, exclusive offer. I am working. I'm so backed up, but I am working on a Jira only specific. So I'm doing like a 4 to 5 hour course. It's going to be available for $12.99. Oh, sorry, for $90, but it's gonna have a discount code. So I'm gonna drop this link here. If you go to Udemy and buy this course, this is the other course. This is a different course that I have available. This is for beginners. But if you go sign up for this one, Udemy will notify me, and you're gonna get two bonuses. One, you're gonna get when I do drop the Jira admin course, you're gonna get that one for free, absolutely free. And second, a $50 value. If you have questions about anything we talked about today, and you want to essentially tag up with me, you have two options. You can go in the link tree. There's a one-on-one help here, right? You can buy an hour. You can buy. There's a couple different options. But if you just have a quick question, normally it's a $50 purchase here, but you could just buy the course for $13, right? And if you buy the course, I will throw in a 15-minute session for you. So um, make sure if you want to talk or chat or you have any questions, and you don't want to pay the $50, pay the $13, get the course. You'll get two courses and 15 minutes with me, and I'll get you going in the right direction. And then finally, at a very minimum, if you don't want to buy any of that, don't want to get the book, don't want to get the merch store, don't want to do any of that, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always putting out a lot of content on LinkedIn. We got a lot of videos, little shorts, lots of cool stuff happening, polls and great stuff. So make sure you at least connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be very happy to work with you here, and just so you can stay up to date with what's going on in the Atlassian ecosystem there. So that's it for this one. If you're going to be at Team 25, I do have a session where we're going to be doing one of these live. So if you are planning on coming to the Atlassian conference in Anaheim on April 8th through the 10th, I will have a session where we're going to be doing a course live in person, right? So I would love to have everybody come. If you're there, definitely carve out some time on your calendar to hit that session up. I would love it if I can have like standing people, right? Like if it's full, we fill up a room, that would be really, really cool and really, really awesome. So if you're going to be there, do me a huge favor and just come to my session. I think it's going to be really cool. So I think I dropped all the links. Connect with me, buy all the stuff you want to buy, or don't buy any of the stuff you want to do. And then finally, special shout out to our sponsor, Unido here. Definitely go check out their platform here. If you are integrating, they have a lot of connections with a lot of different tools here. And so you can connect with Asana, Smartsheets, Airtable, Basecamp, Bitbucket, ClickUp, Confluence, a bunch of different tools here, as you can see here. So if you are using these two tools and you're having to duplicate your data, make sure you use something like Unido so that you can have a single source of truth, a shared source of truth, so that your teams don't have to pick one tool over the other. Both tools can coexist, and Unido makes that possible. So special shout out to Unido for making this possible, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.